You know, I haven't done a video in a while on different states' vehicle exemptions, license exemptions on and for non-residents and other key individuals. So there are some exemptions. Oh, hey, howdy, neighbor. Let's take a look at, I believe we're going to go to Georgia this time. Let's get into it. But before we do that, don't forget to hit that bell, like, and you got it. Did you say it mentally? I know you did because everybody else always uses it. I know. See, one of the reasons why I say that is because if you guys haven't subscribed, one, it helps me, helps the channel, helps the algorithms, and you have to also be careful because apparently YouTube, if you do not watch the videos and subscribe and all the good stuff, they will unsubscribe and you'll slowly stop seeing it. And we all know they don't, or at least certain factions don't really care for the information that I'm sharing here. So I've always said this. If you're watching the show, you're not paying attention to the man behind the curtain. So you guys want to make sure you know what's really going on? Watch the man behind the curtain, and I'll tell you. Meanwhile, they're going to try to keep you entertained with their show. As always, guys, thank you for supporting. Thank you to the people who've joined the Badwolf Media channel on YouTube, my backup channel. Thank you for that. Thank you to the people that have joined my cousin's new YouTube channel, The Gold Dragon. He's also under thegolddragon.net for his website, where he sells lots of gear that he's made, and he's learning the art of Wing Chun. So if you're into martial arts or you just want to support somebody new and upcoming, very positive person, great attitude and personality and outlook on life, join Brian J. Adams over there. Also, for those people who've joined the newsletter on Black Site 32, thank you very much. And to those people who've joined me on TikTok and have come over here, appreciate you guys. You guys are going to get all the stuff I promised you guys and then some. So this particular video is going to be us talking about who is all exempt from a driver's license. Now, of course, as always, none of my information is to be construed as legal advice. Go see a professional for that, if you want. Um, but we're going to be talking about people who operate in right to travel, which has already been adjudicated by the federal and Supreme Court, as we do have this as a constitutional right. Okay. Driving is a privilege. And the word driving is for commerce and commercial in traffic, which is for the public and public officers. If you do everything we talk about here properly, you'll be back in your natural, which is in the private, as a private citizen or a national per the GPO Styles Manual, Section 5.23, known as a New Yorker, Floridian, Wisconsinite, Californian, Alaskan, etc. You have these rights. But before anybody contacts me, make sure you guys go and read the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. Okay? Because these are where the superior power in our nation and our lands come from. Anything decided on the federal and Supreme Court levels is law. But what the states are doing is their own private law for their private residents, residency, resident, to have resided from the Constitution and those rights inalienable by God to corporate rights as a legal person doing business in their area, but they don't even own the area. They own the corporation over the land in the geographical sense. They're just doing business in a layered thing. And if you use their stuff and you want their privileges, then you resonate here. If you want your rights and freedoms from God protected by the Constitution and the federal government, thank you for the Department of State and all the rest of the people out there do their jobs correctly, including some police officers, then you operate down here. But if you're down here in the private and you do things like speeding and hurting people and whatever else, that's going to resonate you up here into their jurisdiction and they will take care of you. So thank you for those people that do that. All right. So we're going to be talking about, if you want to know how to do all the steps to right to travel, Google right to travel, James C. Lovett. And I have a live on my live playlist. Go there and watch the 3 hour live and learn how to do all of the things properly. Okay. So this video is more so for people who've already watched those things or people in Georgia who are trying to do these things. The same rules and things that we're going to use here are going to apply in your state. I've already made a video on how to look up your state's um, non-resident registration or foreign vehicle registration, private vehicle registration, exempt vehicle registration, um, and all of the various things that they call it. You have to find their laws or the laws in your state. And do we have to comply with them? No. But should we? Yes. And I'll tell you why. Because we're all in the same sandbox, we might as well play together as well as we can. And though they sometimes are belligerents and combatants and road pirates, we are not going to be. Okay. Nonviolence, nonviolence, nonviolence. So, as a patriot to the United States of America and against anybody who uses the term sovereignty, okay, because we're not any of that. We're private citizens, we're nationals. The government has a listing for it. And anybody uses that word against me or any of you guys, you can sue for that. It is defamation of character. All right. Because that is a term which whoever out there likes to rent the space underneath my YouTube, that's a whole new level of petty, but I'm impressed. Um, that word, it only applies to those people who are trying to not be a functional part of our society, whether private or public. And they're trying to be against the government and they're trying to be against the law enforcement and other agencies. And that's not us. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, if you're going to look at my material, which all of the description boxes on my video say this is constitutional law. Oh, what? You don't believe constitutional law is a thing? Well, hmm, let me see if I have a book that will negate that. Oh, I'm sorry. Constitutional law. Oh, you didn't know that was a thing? Well, I do believe ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? This is the superior law in the land. This particular book has 100 cases that everybody should know. Go ahead. Wait, I'll wait. Google is the Constitution or constitutional law the supreme law in the land, and then get back to me. I'll wait. 3 seconds later. Okay, so let's get to it. So we're going to take a look at Georgia and we're going to find their particular laws and we're going to interpret, okay, which are also can be construed or called as enumerated rights. Rights that are either directly said, implied, or if they're not mentioned here, you have a right to it. So that's another aspect of the law you guys have to learn. So they can say, oh, we control all of this, we can do all of this, and we are here for public administration, and we do that, and the part that they didn't say in there that you assumed covered you, the part that they didn't say was they don't have jurisdiction over private citizens or over private rights. They said they administer over the public. Now, that doesn't mean because you can just go up to a police officer, well, I'm a private citizen. And so, well, you can. It's probably going to look at you crazy because another word for private citizen is also foreign national or national of the United States or state citizen, though they only teach them foreign national and private citizen in their books. That doesn't mean you just go up to them and do whatever you want to do. Not at all. And that's not what this channel's about. So if you want to try that, good luck. What it is in the right circumstances, you can hold and stand your ground as that. So this is not a get out of jail card free. So don't even bother trying to do that. Okay. If you've broken the law or you're in danger of public safety, they absolutely have the right. Matter of fact, even you as a private citizen can arrest a police officer or anybody else out there if they're endangering public safety or taking away or abusing somebody or abusing constitutional law. but you have to be able to articulate every aspect of that. This doesn't mean you can just go and do whatever you want to do. Once again, nobody's above the law, and this is what an officer will tell you, but that also goes for them. They do maritime, state, corporate statutes, rules, regulations, jurisdiction, corporate level. Then there's the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution, put in place and supported by the highest law of the land, which is constitutional law, brought to you by these two attorneys. So, with that being said, can you drive without a license? No, absolutely not. Why? Because they own the word drive. You can look it up in their dictionary, especially the older ones before they started trying to hide it. The word drive is for commercial purposes. For operating in traffic, which means commerce. For profit. That's why your driver's license, you can just jump in and do Uber and whatever else without needing a special thing. Because you're using the roads for profit and it needs to be regulated. But they, by law, and the federal law, cannot regulate your private interstate commerce or business. But if you're speeding or endangering public safety or denying somebody of their rights or whatever else, yes, they absolutely can. See, we've gotten so far away from the private things that it sounds funny and weird. It sounds foreign. It's like speaking Greek. Yasu, tikanis, pospai. Ah, kala, kala, puli kala. You know, or any other language. Que pasó? I speak 4 languages almost fluently. Well, not as much as I used to anymore. Or French. Parlez-vous français? Oui, un petit. So, okay, fine. Go ahead with your bad self. Oh, speaking Android. Android's like, I can speak a language too. So we're going to look at Georgia. We're going to look at their code, and we're going to decipher what's here so that for those people in the state, it's a freebie for you. And I've done other states. You can watch those videos as well. So without further ado, let's get to it. What's going on my phone here? Trying to charge, not charge. All right, get over there. All right, so I'm gonna have my lovely AI read. We'll just see if she's view our newest revision here. Okay. All right. So we're doing this as we go. Now, of course, keep in mind that they can always update and change these things. So if you try to chase their game, you will not win, except for maybe in the moment, because they'll just say, oh, you found our weakness. Haha, your kung fu is good, but not good as mine. Try my crane style. And they'll just change it. So you have to understand that you have the inalienable rights under the Constitution, but we like to use their stuff to pin it to them when the situation is necessary if they try to deny you of your rights. So let's okay, so this is the Title 40, 2023 Code for Georgia Corporation, all in caps, motor vehicle traffic, 4-1-4016-8, Chapter 5, driver's license, blah, 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 exemptions generally. So that means that there are others. This is just some of them. They don't like to put everything in one place, so you may have to do more work than this. Let's take a gander.
A. Except as provided in Article 7 of this chapter, the Uniform Commercial Driver's License Act, the following persons are exempt from licenses under this chapter. 1. Any employee of the United States government. Form Commercial Driver's License Act, the following persons are exempt from licenses under this chapter. 1. Any employee of the United States. 4. Any person on active duty. Any employee of the United States government while operating a motor vehicle owned by or leased to the United States government. Next.
Here, sorry,
A
just trying to get there.
non-resident who has in his or her immediate possession a valid driver's license.
Okay, so one, they're telling you a non-resident. Now, understand this. Even non-residents who are not in their jurisdiction should not be on their books. They're trying to take some kind of jurisdiction over them. They do not have jurisdiction over private persons or a non-resident. So remember, when they ask you to show them a piece of mail with your name in all capitalized letters, that name itself, it is the resident. It is the residant. Reside and enter. Recited from the Constitution for the United States of America and entered their jurisdiction. So as a non-resident, which is who you are as a living person, you are a national. But when you use that name, you become a resident. You wear the mask and you start to have alter ego or multiple personality or legal multiple personality disorder. There's a separation. Why? Because a resident is a legal person. The all caps name is a legal person. It actually is not you. It physically cannot be you. They are recognizing that name and they're trying to form joinder between you and it. You are a living being. You cannot be a black name on paper. This is called the style of things. What does it mean on a style, the legal level, the minutia, intrinsic overstanding of what is before you? A lot of people read barely and think that they understand these things. Well, maybe they understand, but to understand means you're under somebody's authority, which means you're stupid. You got to overstand these things. You stand over it. All right. So a non-resident, they do not have jurisdiction over. But they say it in this way that they still try to say, well, you may not be our property, but you still have to kind of conform to some of these things. And that's cute. They do not operate as actual law to be able to do certain things. Okay, so let's keep going and see what they say.
License issued to him or her in his or her home state, country, or political subdivision of a foreign country, provide.
So they're saying here that as long as you have a valid driver's license issued to him or her in him or her from their home state. Well, the word state means a group. Okay, phone, what's going on with you today? All right, must have, I don't know, whatever, died or it's being hacked and they're listening in. Nothing new. We got you to just watch the video. So the word state means a group of people. So if you create your own driver, I wouldn't call it a driver's license, but maybe operator's license or a private ID for vehicle use, you can create one from your own state. There's no law that says you cannot create your own state, your own country, your own political subdivision, or a foreign country. We read this and go, oh, well, I'm not one of the big states. So they're saying in your own home state, right here, a resident from their own home state, you can create your own state. There's no law against doing any of this. This is the same thing they did. They took all of this from the private and made an official version of it. All we're doing is the same things that they're doing. They took something private, made an official. We can do the same thing. Now, I'm not saying it's legal advice to call it a driver's license, but you can create your own license. And I wouldn't even call it a license because that's kind of their word too, especially the word drive. So I wouldn't use that. Don't put their stuff on your things. However, well, you know what? I'm just going to let it read. Go ahead.
Provided, however, that such person would otherwise satisfy all requirements to receive a Georgia driver's license, and provided for.
So what they're saying here is as long as you know how to operate a vehicle safely on their roads, you're good. This is the professional way of saying if you're going to have a license from a foreign country, a real political subdivision, or that particular home state from them, or under what's known as unenumerated rights, you create your own, you're good. This is how they have to say it professionally, and also to minimize people from just doing their own thing, which is what everybody did back in the day before there were driver's licenses. Now, why would they not want this, Wolf? Okay. Why would they not want you to know this? Because what are people going to do? Especially the people who aren't supposed to drive. They're going to make their own driver's license, their own private things, and do their own thing. And yes, it does make it to some degree harder for an officer to do certain things. But guess what? There's people out there who are swapping plates, taking off plates, forging IDs anyway. And yeah, we don't want to make the cops' jobs harder, but also at the same time, I don't want cops making my life, nor a politician or a governor or an AG or anybody making my life and my constitutional rights harder. So I'm sorry that I want to utilize my rights, liberties, and freedoms. And out of us 100, maybe 4 are going to abuse it. Sorry. But you got some of those people are abusing us every day. Every day. There are certain people who are in office, law enforcement, banks, whatever else, that abuse us every day on such a multi-million or billion-dollar scale. And it's become such common practice that we don't even know to recognize it as fraud, deception, theft, constitutional, federal violations of our rights. Hell, some are breaking state laws, their own shit. But they don't want us to be free. Okay, that's cute. Let's keep going.
Further, that in the case of a driver's license issued by the driver's licensing authority of a foreign country or political subdivision of a foreign country, a law.
Now understand this. A political subdivision, this means you're saying you basically deal in politics or corporate. That's not the law. It should in here, and I'm sure they'll probably see this. It should say, or by on the federal level or the supreme level of that nation, country, tribe. But anyway, let's keep going.
Enforcement officer may consult such person's passport or visa to verify the validity of such license, if available. 3. A non-resident on.
So once again, you hear the word non-resident. Here they're saying that they will check the person's passport, or they may. Now, law enforcement, they're basically throwing a wide bridge here, saying police, sheriffs, and whoever else. This is also if you've committed a crime. If you're operating privately and you haven't committed any crime, you're not in the act of a crime, they're not even supposed to ask for your passport or visa. This is not their department. This is for the Department of State, who represent actual lawful laws. So that's why they're throwing a wide net right here. The regular police officer is actually a private enforcement officer for the public. They utilize 9 months to learn everything. Do you think they understand the full law? No. The average police officer knows traffic safety and public administration. That is one of like 1,000 different laws that are out there, including the supreme one, which is the Constitution. They're not taught that.
On active duty in the armed forces of the United States who has a valid license issued by his or her home state, and such non-resident spouse or dependent son or daughter who has a valid license issued by such person's home state. 4. Any person, any inmate or resident patient of a state, county, or municipally owned institution who drives a vehicle while on the
Just thought
grounds of
this one
such
was interesting.
institution and while accompanied by and under the direct personal supervision of a qualified driving instructor or of some other person duly authorized in writing to so accompany and supervise such inmate or resident patient. 6. Any person driving or operating a farm tractor or farm implement temporarily operated on a highway for the purpose of conducting farm business. 7. Any person seeking to obtain a driver's license while taking the driving examination for such license accompanied by a driver license examiner of the department or a certified examining agent of the department. 10. Any migrant farm worker who works in this state less than 90 days in any calendar year and who possesses a valid driver's license issued by another state.
They do not own the roads. They administer control over those people who are in commerce or in traffic. And traffic means commercial, which is why you have a license. The license means contractual, commercial, commerce, for profit, public. The opposite of that would be private. They can only speak on the public. This is what they're talking about right here. This is the best they can do to legally try to encroach upon that private by saying, well, if you're a resident or if you're a non-resident, you do these things, you're in our state. Well, when they say in our state, they mean on paper, not physically in the geographical area. They do not own that. You've never seen them say they own it. That's why they refer to it in this state. Look right here, in this state. In this state, meaning in their area and on paper legally. That's what that means. They cannot tell somebody private that they cannot use the roadways. The roadways are for the public and the private. They only talk on the public because they can only administer over the public. You bring yourself from the private when you get a driver's license or any other license in the moment thereof, but that doesn't mean they own you, but they do own you when you use the license and you register your car underneath your legal name. So don't contact me trying to get you out of tickets and whatever else when you have your stuff. Matter of fact, I read the Supreme Court case that said if you are enjoying the privilege of a license in any of the states, they are not going to protect you and back you. Now, the people I did help who were operating right to travel properly, the one guy won $500,000. The other guy won 1.5 million. This is also why I make these videos to try to tell police officers, hey, you need to know what's going on because you can be sued. Those bonds ain't going to protect you from a 1.5 or a 500,000. How come your boss isn't telling you these things? Because they want to use you guys as worker bees. Ask some of the older officers who've been there in the private. If you got a cool commanding officer, ask him in the private. They'll tell you. Right to travel is a real thing when done properly. We were just never told of this. I didn't know any of this. If I would have heard this talk even from me back when I was a kid, say 15, I would have thought that guy was crazy. And here they use the word no unlicensed driver. License implies that this person has to have one. There's no law that says you have to have a license. But to drive, you do. So this is already agreeing that you're in their jurisdiction. I'm not an unlicensed driver because that means that you're still using the word driver to describe me. and you don't own me to tell me what I am. Now, if I have my vehicle registered, then yes, I'm an unlicensed driver. Because I have my vehicle registered in my name belongs to the state, and anything that I think I own underneath that name, they have the right to administer as being part of the public. Just like with the IRS, if you're doing things correctly, you're not doing tax evasion. And these are their words, not mine. You are practicing tax avoidance. It's a stupid word, but that's their word to say it. They're not, you have to learn to understand the information. Some of this is even hard for me, and I've got an IQ of almost 161. But this is why we win in court, because the people who make the decisions, unless they're just ignorant or they're defying the law, when we break this down to them, and some of them don't know this. I had a judge straight out tell one of my clients, we are just now starting to learn what you guys are talking about because they don't know. It sounds crazy to them. They've only spoken English and now you're speaking Greek or Atlantean or whatever else. I thought this was a good one too, right here.
13. A fully autonomous vehicle with the automated driving system engaged or the operator of a fully autonomous vehicle with the automated driving system engaged.
So they have upgraded their information. I'm sure other states will be copying this bit too. They're saying if your vehicle in the future is AI and fully autonomous, you are exempt from having a driver's license in their state, meaning on paper in the area, because most of these things will probably be corporate, and that will still fall underneath the state's jurisdiction. So come on, I welcome the fully autonomous vehicles, because guess what? You will not then be bothered by any police officers trying to pull you over for this, that, or the other. Can't give you a ticket. It was all the computer AI. And if you didn't know, AI is coming. So even if you want to call it the devil, well, you might as well worship the devil and invest in it because it's coming. It's already here. It's been here actually in small divisions. Now, this last part here actually is what helped out one of my clients.
Georgia driver's license. He or she is at least 16 years of age and has in his or her immediate possession a valid license issued to him or her in his or her home state or country, provided, however, that any restrictions which would apply to a Georgia driver's license as a matter of law would apply to the privilege afforded to the out-of-state license, and 2. He or she is currently enrolled or was enrolled during the immediately preceding period of enrollment in a school in this state, has paid for the current period of enrollment or paid for the immediately preceding period of enrollment the tuition charged by the school to non-residents of Georgia, and has in his or her possession proof of payment of such tuition for such current or.
So, in other words, this helped my. Oh, suppose I should look professional. Hold on. All right, where were we? So, this helped one of my clients because her child fit that last description and didn't have a license and was operating under right to travel. Now, understand this. If you do not have a license and you never had, like she never had one, and he was in that in between period, they cannot lawfully write you a ticket. Now, they still might write the ticket and put your name on there or whatever else, but it's not going to stick. It's void. Why? If a doctor needs a license to be a doctor, we have to understand that then it means that he is doctoring, and that is a commercial, there it is, profession. So is driving as a driver. So in order to give somebody a ticket, you have to have a license to drive. And if the system shows that it is suspended, then you are an unlicensed driver or you're driving on a suspended license. You have not closed it. You don't have any proof that you've closed it. And that's one of the sneaky things that a lot of these states out here will do is they won't close or delete your account. They'll leave it in a pending where so it looks to them like it's still suspended. Cop writes your ticket. 20 years later, he gets a gold watch for it. The judge and all the rest of them, they make their money, and the people on top make even more money. And yeah, how do I know these things? Because there was a clerk who came to me and gave me a lot of that information and said, this is what really goes on. She's got some videos on YouTube. All right. I don't know if they're still up or if she still does it, but and if I can find it, I'll post it on Black Side 32. If not, don't ask me for it because I'm not going to remember the exact video name. But you can type in like on YouTube, like courthouse clerk reveals information, secrets of the courthouse, something like that. If there's not one, you'll find some other ones. So this is what they also don't tell police officers, but it's always funny because every time that this happened in the past to me, the police officers were like, well, we don't want any problems, sir. So they started respecting me when their commanding officer said, let him go now. Yeah, because they didn't want to be sued. I'm not going to fight you. One cop's like, you going to run? I'm a grown ass man. I don't need to run from you. I'm not afraid of you. You run and tell lies from people you're afraid of and that you think are superior. And they're not superior. The law is, and the law's on my side. So if you never had a license, you can do right to travel. That's even better because you need a license to drive. But you also want to make sure that if you're done, and this isn't, you still might be bothered, you still might have your car towed, you still might have your rights violated. But like the other people who won council or court cases, your rights are valid as long as you're doing them the right way, but it does not make you above the law. It is a freedom and a right and a liberty that you can exercise. But the moment you step out of line, you can be penalized. I've never once said in any of my videos this makes you above the law or you're untouchable. That's stupid. Matter of fact, I hope all the major lawbreakers out there get what they have coming to them, whether it's today, tomorrow, or the next one. We'll settle up after. Because you're endangering and hurting people that I care about, I love, or me, or my wonderful viewers out there. Now, there's a lot of small things and infractions that are just money making schemes for the elite that are operating all these things. What you do realize that at the end of the day, it's these county board members and state board members who most of you guys don't even know their names. They're the ones. See, that's when you know you have power. Let me tell you, I've run with people who had money and power. And I'm talking about people who can make anything happen. Anything happen. I don't put their specific names out there. I don't talk about the direct things they told me not to. Well, we'll say they asked me to keep private some of these fraternities and groups that I belong to and whatever else. I share the things that people can know, should know. If you want to know more, well, then you need to find your way and work your way up to gaining their confidence. And then maybe they'll give you little inside things. But these are the people that run in such a way of amazement that you guys don't even know their names. You don't even know where to begin to find out who they are. And they're the ones making all the money on the top. They're not worried about me. They know enough of you guys aren't going to put down your cell phones and stop watching some basketball games and who's what favorite star slapped another star and who's smashing who and all the other stuff. And look at me, I'm at the light twerking. They know they have more faith in you continuing how you're going to live your life than to listen to me. Why do you think my channel is not like a super big channel? Because they know the average person Just keeping real. Don't be mad at me if this applies. If you're triggered, sorry, not sorry. So the average person's got an IQ of less than 80, and they just want to be entertained. They're barely getting by. Been there. I've done all that stuff. I wasn't just born naturally smart. I was gifted, but I read. A lot of people out there don't know that I'm actually dyslexic. I have a problem saying words and numbers backwards. I wear glasses. I'm not perfect. I have a speech impediment. I stutter. I'm not a perfect human being, but I'm perfectly me. And a lot of those things I've worked and learned to overcome with practice, training, discipline. So there's nothing out there that you guys can't accomplish. I've given you guys a lot of tools, and I'm going to give you guys a whole lot more before I decide to retire from this. So don't worry, it ain't going to be today. And all my enemies out there, stupid bad wolf. See, I don't understand jealousy, because to be jealous, you're, without realizing this, saying that you want everything that another person has, but you don't think you can get it or deserve it. And so you want to take or hate, which is easier to do. You could put aside your childish things and notions, become a full man or a full woman, humble yourself and go to that person and learn from them, work with them. No, no, it's easier just to hate. I hate you. You don't deserve what you had, what you did. Some people don't. I'm still not going to hate. I'm just going to watch how they move and be a little bit more like them, because you emulate greatness to become great. You'll find your fate if all you do is live in hate. That's it. But see, those people and beings and whatever else are there to tear down, and they enjoy it. So enjoy your cup of tea. The rest of us are going to learn some freedoms, rights, and liberties and be free. So to each and one of you guys out there, be the best person you possibly can be every day. You don't have to be perfect, because there's no such thing. If you believe in God, He did not create this reality to be perfect, but to be a good and evil mix, light and dark. He didn't create us to be angels. Otherwise, we would be. Maybe some angels walk amongst us out there. So you don't have to be perfect. You're not an angel. And if you read the Bible, depending on how you interpret it, they also said the angels fell from grace, or some of them. So even angels aren't perfect. So take care of yourselves, be the best you can, forgive yourself for some things, and understand that the price of learning something sometimes is paid dearly. But as long as you can get up and go another day, dust off, when you're ready, take a deep breath, jump back on the horse or dragon or unicorn or Bigfoot or whatever the hell you ride, and keep going. And you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just have to be smart enough to ask the smartest person in the room, how can I do better? How can I be better? How can I be like you? How can I be better than even you? And if they're a good person you're modeling yourself after, they'll teach you. As always, guys, you guys have all the answers within you if you sit down and look at it. As they say, so below, so above.